we're gonna have to break this one down because the Arizona Coyotes came up with a surprising win over the St. Louis Blues. Probably one of the most complete games we've seen so far all season long. Um, Carl and I will have to break this down on this episode of Locked On Coyotes. So be sure to stay tuned. We'll see what we can get out of this one.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everyone. This is Locked On Coyotes. I'm Robyn, Leaño, Carl Pavlock right beside me on this live post-game show. Arizona Coyotes defeat the St. Louis Blues 3-2. What a performance from the Arizona Coyotes! Wouldn't say great performance, but
Yeah.
but still, for the Coyotes, on a Coyotes perspective, this is the most complete game, and probably, if I'm being real here, the best we could probably see them play.
Yeah. When we're talking about the Coyotes, we are grading on a bit of a curve, but still a really good game by the Desert Dogs. I thought they played pretty well. There wasn't many issues that they seem to have had. Like if this was a regular season and this was just a road game they played, I would have been extremely happy with it. So, like even for a bad Coyotes team, I thought it was a good game.
Yeah, and I was only able to listen to like the first half on the radio, but even then, like I was listening to it, like anytime the Coyotes went on the penalty kill or power play, I was like, okay, something's bad's gonna happen here. But penalty kill did their job today.
They did, and the team thankfully didn't take too many penalties either. They only had 3. It was really good to see. Scott Wedgwood definitely came up solid in both penalty kills. He had a really good game. But yeah, it was interesting to see the Coyotes not take a bunch of penalties, poorly timed penalties. They did do some, quite a few actually, or all 3 I would say were poorly timed, but it didn't come back to bite them, which is just kind of what we've seen. And they pretty much shut it down by the end, and they weren't just taking it in the final minutes, which shows a level of discipline. I think Tournier was really talking to him about it.
Let's also mention too the goal scorers for this game. Now, when I first recorded the now, I actually said it was Shane Gostisbehere who scored the game-winning goal. That's actually been changed to Barrett Hayton. So Barrett Hayton, 2 goals tonight. So all 3 goals from the Coyotes tonight from the young players. Because Barrett Hayton, the latter 2 goals. The first goal from Kyle Capobianco.
Yeah.
So this is a performance I didn't expect to see.
Yeah, there was a lot of Roadrunners alum in the lineup, and it wasn't all that surprising that the people generating the offense were with the Roadrunners. It was just a phenomenal game by Hayton. I thought it was a pretty good game by Capobianco. Like both of them really slid in, and let's be honest, it was a pretty good game by the other players as well. I didn't notice anything like significantly wrong in like Hudson's game or Cam Janine. I thought everyone really played well.
And this is what we wanted to see too. Obviously, you'd hope the Coyotes are playing a lot better, but everyone wants to see their team play to a certain caliber. But this is what I can ask. Like, this is the kind of play that I'm asking for. Like they don't have to play perfect. They don't have to play fantastic, but they're doing the right things for the talent that they have, and finding out a way to beat one of the better teams in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I thought their penalties weren't the best timed. There was an early one. There was one like within 2 minutes of scoring a goal, and I think the other one was also right around then too. Yes, immediately after scoring a goal. So not the most well-timed penalties, but they only had 3, which is good.
That's the most important part. They only have 3 because, like you were mentioning in the pregame show, But this team was had a huge problem on taking way too many penalties. They're the most penalized team in the National Hockey League.
Yeah.
Not to mention, they also had the worst penalty kill in the National Hockey League. So to have neither of those things be a problem tonight, it just a huge sigh of relief.
Yeah, yeah, it was great that they didn't take like more penalties throughout because that's always kind of the concern that we have where the Coyotes they like they kill four penalties, and then in the fifth one that they give to the Chicago Blackhawks, they're able to score on it because, yeah, you can't give a team five penalty or five power plays and expect them not to score on at least one. It's like flipping a coin, and you keep getting heads, and you're like, I'm gonna keep pushing my luck, double or nothing, and it works out poorly. So I thought that was really good. I said that the Coyotes would need to play near perfect. And I don't think that this was a perfect game. I think this was, a lot of lapses, but it was a well done game. And they really, I think the biggest thing was they got the goaltending to kind of bail them out from their mistakes because they made quite a few.
And yeah, and let's talk about that. I think the Coyotes were finally smart in this case in the decision to start Scott Wedgwood, and it paid off because obviously he, he made the stops that were necessary,
Yeah.
and overall, I mean, like, yeah, kept this one where it should have, where it should have been.
Yeah, definitely. He made the saves that he needed to make. There was definitely a few like just really huge moments for him. I also think the Coyotes for the first time this season got a fair amount of puck luck too. Like there was at one point like just a shot that trickled wide, shot that went wide. Like the Coyotes were getting good bounces and they were just making their own luck by like stopping everything else that they needed to.
Yeah, and that's just one of the many factors of how this game was supposed to go. And it's funny because think about this. You and I both thought this was going to be like a not a bad game. Like what were our final scores? I think you said like 5-2 or something like that, and I said
I
six
said
three.
yep, because they were both three, 5-2, 6-3, and up until the very last minute, I thought that things were still going to go catastrophically wrong, because we have seen the Coyotes collapse in a period against the Blues, and the Blues came out and had a very like big third period, so like it could have easily gone a different way if not for the play of Scott Wedgwood and just a whole around like better defensive effort.
I guess I should have taken into fact, even though I didn't want to take into that fact at the pregame show, that the Coyotes just happened to play good games against St. Louis. Obviously, earlier this year was that second period was a um, was like a mirage, but
An
like
outlier.
an outlier because like let's be real. This is just the last however like what 9 games, 8 games, like 9, 10 games. These two teams, the Coyotes have been the better team against them, despite the Blues being the better team.
Yeah, yeah. And like I know it's easy to say like, well, those completely different in those prior games. They have a whole new coach, whole new players. But like I think teams like remember that sort of thing and they kind of like build that into their own mythology, especially the guys who were there last year, like Clayton Keller. He is all about beating the St. Louis Blues. And they really did, I think in their first game, outside of that second period, they played fine. Like I thought the first and the third were pretty okay. It was just like a major collapse. So they really just did like a full 60-ish minutes effort for this one.
Absolutely. What we're gonna do though is we're gonna talk more about this Coyotes win. We're gonna probably go into just some of the stats to kind of see how things go from there. Break down how this game went. How just about how even was this for the Arizona Coyotes. We're going to get to that all in just a sec. But first, I want to remind you guys that it is Thanksgiving time, and I absolutely love Thanksgiving. It's got all the delicious food out there that I just love to stuff myself as we gain gain the holiday weight to try to lose it back. But maybe I don't want to gain that weight. Maybe I don't want to get so eat desserts that are so full of calories and sugar. Maybe it's time for me to snack on a Built Bar instead, the new holiday dessert. I want to be able to feast on something delicious and feel good about it too. And that's where Built Bar comes in because, one simple slice of pie might be about 300 calories or so on the low end. Built Bar is only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar with plenty of protein. So overall, low carb, low calorie, low fat, high protein, covered in 100% real chocolate. So it tastes delicious. They taste amazing, but they're also super healthy. That's what's amazing about it. It's a great option for if you're hungry and, once again, if Thanksgiving isn't coming soon enough, go for a Built Bar or two. There's going to be new surprises all month long. Limited time flavors arriving at Built.com regularly, so be sure to check the site often. There's going to be nothing like a Built Bar Black Friday, so mark your calendar. Black Friday will be a huge event with lots of surprises. Go to Built.com and use the promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Once again, use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Okay, so let's continue here on Locked on Coyotes. Once again, Robyn, Leaño, Carl, Pavlock, as we discuss the Arizona Coyotes win over the St. Louis Blues. And I like to check natural stat trick, Carl, to kind of see, how the game flow was, just about how even it was. So
Sure.
I'm looking at, for example, both Corsi and expected goals. Corsi was still, no matter what, just slightly in favor of the St. Louis Blues when looking at the stat that's they call 5-on-5 score value adjusted.
Sure.
Expected goals for the same stat actually in favor of the Arizona Coyotes. 1.49 expected goals for, 1.1 for the St. Louis Blues. It just so overall shows that this was an even game. Blues had better possession metrics, but the Coyotes had more expected. If you look at all situations, the Blues actually were expected to score more still. But
Sure.
overall, Corsi, I think it's the first time where we see the team like 58.95% versus 41%. Um, these are much closer in matchups. Like, I did not expect to see,
Yeah.
I didn't expect it.
Well, I haven't had a chance to check the numbers yet. I was actually just in the process of writing the recap as we started recording, but I have to say that that plays pretty well with the eye test. When I was watching like during the game, I was actually a bit surprised. I would have thought the Blues would have had a bit more expected goals than the Coyotes, just because there was a few moments where they really were getting close. Like I said, I think the Coyotes definitely got their share of puck luck on this one, just kind of making sure the things went the wrong way. But yeah, this was a solid matchup against a very good team. Admittedly, a team that's on a losing streak, but a good team nonetheless. It was cool to see the Coyotes actually like look like they were in the same league as another team.
I know, right? I mean, because I think one of the things we're worried too about, this team essentially, the Coyotes team tonight essentially being the Tucson Roadrunners in overpaid contracts.
Yeah,
Um, but this time it looked like and maybe it was because what we were saying before, that this team had something to prove. But they
yeah.
weren't just what we were saying, just an AHL team in overpaid contracts, but they actually were competing to be a National Hockey League team. And that's what we saw. Obviously, we're still talking about a team that's only won its second game. The Coyotes, obviously, they still got a long way to go. But
Yeah.
to beat the Blues,
I mean, I think that, like we were talking about, everyone on this team has something to prove, especially the younger players. But I think it's also, like I was mentioning before too, like road games, you're able to kind of simplify things. You're not going too fancy with anything. And I think that more so than anything else, that's what we saw. We saw the Coyotes simplify their game, play just a really simple game, one that they could theoretically play any night of the week. Like, if they could play like this against the Blues, who's to say that they can't play like this against the Detroit Red Wings this weekend? Like, nothing.
I know, and that's the thing. It's like, is maybe we're worried about the Coyotes coming away with not that much luck at all and some pretty bad performance heading into the end of November. This win against the Blues helps them, like it gives them the confidence first and foremost, because that's what they were talking. We're talking about confidence as a huge factor coming into the end of this month. not to mention, because they have a tough thing coming up, so it gives a tough schedule coming up. This gives them some momentum.
Yeah,
A good win like this, maybe they can carry that into Thursday's game against the Blue Jackets, and then Saturday's game when they host the Red Wings, and then the Kings, and we'll more on and more on. Like things will get better.
yeah. It definitely seems like I think the Coyotes are just going to continue to improve. I think they're going to have a much better second half to the season than they had a first half. Like, don't get me wrong, they're not going to be competing for a playoff spot or anything
No,
like
they
that,
won't,
but
and they
uh,
shouldn't.
they shouldn't. But a 2-11-1, is that what the record is? Um,
Two
like
13-1.
2-13-1. Wow, games are just blending together.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is that is not sustainable. That is like something that we're gonna even out, and I think it's gonna be the Coyotes. A combination of two things. I think they're just gonna get better luck. I think they had horrible luck to start out the season, and I think they're gonna slide into a system well. And they'll just kind of rely on that, and they'll have these kind of real simple games. I imagine there's going to be a lot of 3-2 wins in their future
You
this
want me to
season.
make a good? I can make a good comparison right now of how I can see the Coyotes in like from first half to second half of a season of a recent team,
Sure.
the 2016-17, I believe, Colorado Avalanche. Remember that team was terrible. Like I think we were thinking whether or not that they were even gonna, that they were gonna put on a good season at all in the first half. Like it was like, oh my god, this team is. Are they gonna compete for one of the worst one of the worst seasons ever? And then they not saying they bounced back because they were still one of the worst teams in the league to finish off, but they managed to even themselves out to kind of look like an NHL team
Yeah.
in the latter half.
Yeah. Look respectable at least because, you know, ultimately all these athletes, they are at the very top of their craft.
They're in the
And
NHL for a reason.
yeah, they're in the NHL for a reason. They're still in the NHL for a reason. Like, if it got bad enough, I'm sure they would just retire or something. We've seen that happen before.
Mm-hmm.
It'll definitely be interesting to watch. I think there's a lot that makes this team exciting. I think the younger players, hopefully, they continue to have success that we saw in today's game, and also just I'm really enjoying watching Gostisbehere. He's looked really good. He's been like
He
my
gets like a
bright
point in
spot.
every game.
Yeah. He's like offensively gifted. I feel he's like defensively responsible. I also kind of like how Tournier has been playing Keller on the penalty kill. Like I think that's a just an interesting move that has been working surprisingly well.
Okay, there's a stat for you that Luke Lipinski just posted that I find amusing because it actually goes with Shane Gostisbehere. So it kind of ties in perfectly here. This is what he posted, and this just shows you how valuable Shane Gostisbehere has been to the Arizona Coyotes this season. He said that Shane Gostisbehere has been in on half the Coyotes' goals this season.
Yep. That sounds absolutely right because he is the point leader and the Coyotes are getting no offense.
Their
That
point leader is from a defenseman.
yeah,
Oh man.
which is not unheard of for the Coyotes by any stretch. I remember when Oliver Ekman-Larsson was their goal leader. With
Hmm.
but yeah, I think that trade like there was a lot of talk about like is he due for a bounce back season? And I think he's getting like just the perfectly right opportunity to kind of show that yeah, he is due for a bounce back season. He's not the number one guy by any means. I don't think like he's competing for the Norris, but he's been just a solid piece of the Coyotes defense and just a joy to watch.
He has been a joy to watch, and I think the Coyotes were definitely extremely smart in making that trade, especially since they didn't have to give anything up
No,
for
nothing.
Gossip Spare. So like, not to mention they also the Arizona even got an extra draft pick out of that trade. So it
Yeah,
feels pretty good, right? Not
yeah,
only you're getting a good performance out of him, but you gave up nothing and you got a draft pick. Like, okay.
yeah. And he is one of the few players that's not immediately dropping off. I think what? Because pulling up their contracts real quick.
I think he still has he's got one more year afterwards.
Yeah, he's got one more year at 4.5. So, like, we're gonna get like another year of him if the team doesn't decide to trade him, if his value gets too much. But
Oh man.
I don't see that happening.
Maybe not this season though, at
No.
the very least.
Well, I mean, depending on how things go, maybe the team's looking a little bit
To-
differently at the end of next season.
And re-sign him.
Yeah, and re-sign him. Maybe he like wants to stick around with a team that helped revitalize his career at a discounted rate.
That's a good point. That is a
Yeah,
good point because sometimes that changes scenery. You're like, okay, this team might be struggling now, but because of how I fit with this team, I want to stay with them and help them rebuild because that's the kind of play. Like there are players that do that, and I like if there's like the players that do that, I've got all the respect for. Like they're amazing.
yeah. And he's only 28, so he's not like over the hill.
He's right around the prime.
He's right around the prime. I think like if he feels like, hey, I'm comfortable with this team, like I can finish my career well. Let's see what we can do. Like that's an upside that you're getting pretty much only with Shane Goss to spare. The other contracts the Coyotes acquired are not that.
No. And
But
that's what we expected, right? We
yeah,
expected because of giving up nothing for all the other players that we got. It's like, oh, we'll just take your cap space,
yeah,
and we'll just eat up the contracts. Just give us some draft picks in return. That's what everyone thought about Gossespierre too. But at the same time, even you and I, when they first got him, we were just like, this might be end up being more beneficial for the Coyotes in the end because
yeah,
because everything I just mentioned.
yeah. I mean, it was definitely like low risk, high reward
Oh yeah,
because if like worst case scenario they were overpaying him for another year. Best case scenario, he is the team's leading point scorer. Um, which honestly, if you had asked us like where are the odds that Shane Gostisbehere would be leading the team in points this many
if
games in,
if
I would
if
have
you asked, yeah, if you asked that and the odds were and the odds would have been super high, there's no way I would have taken that bet. I'm just like, listen, I love Gossespierre. Like I loved him when he was a Flyer for a little while, and like I thought he played well, and I think he's gonna bounce back at the Coyotes. But that, I don't know. So he has pleasantly surprised.
yeah. I mean, there's few players I would think of above him really. Like I would have probably like bet the field over him, but yeah, no, it's an interesting player to kind of watch and develop. And I just hope it continues for the rest of the season. I hope this is just the tip of the iceberg for him.
Absolutely. We still got more to get to on this show, though. What we're going to do is we're going to start looking ahead because the Coyotes have a few more games. If we include Sunday, 3 more games this week. How does this win carry momentum potentially into the rest of this week? All that coming up in just a sec. But first, a quick word from Carl.
We're back and better than ever. A new web interface for the start of the basketball season, and more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all basketball and football and hockey action this season. Head over to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right down to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts.
All right. So back here on Lockdown Coyotes, Robyn, Leaño, Carl, Pavlock. The Coyotes now will have 3 games coming up later this week, including Sunday. And now they're also done with the a small portion of the of a Central Division road trip for Chicago, Nashville, and St. Louis. Now they come home. They'll host Columbus, Detroit, and then back on the road to face um, the Los Angeles Kings. So 3 more games coming up this week. How does this win, Carl? And I think we did mention it a little bit earlier, but how does this win affect these next 3 games?
So I think the game that's going to have the biggest effect on is the upcoming game against the Columbus Blue Jackets, because if they had like dropped all 3 on the road, that's going to kill confidence heading home.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're heading home with some momentum. You're feeling good about yourself. Like that's going to maybe take a little bit of pressure off tomorrow. And then I think that really helps them out on Thursday against the Blue Jackets.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the most important parts. And that's what I talked about earlier in the show, is that win really helped with confidence and momentum. And that's and confidence has been a major problem for this Coyotes. We're talking about that in the pregame show. We're talking about that all last week. That if the Coyotes get the first goal against them, they kind of go into a shell, and what happened to this team. It looks like the competitiveness we saw from like the previous game is gone.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's possible to carry that momentum, but they gotta try. They gotta try to carry as much momentum and take over some of the confidence from this last win in St. Louis to back at their home. Because again, now they're back at home. They got their home crowd ready to bring them on. That should be able to help them, maybe just enough to get a good start against Columbus. And I think that's the most important. As long as you start well against Columbus, then these next few games can look less tough than we anticipated before.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, well, a big thing is I think one of the reasons that the Coyotes won is because they had the confidence now. So I think it can easily carry over.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was great to see them like after a goal send out the Hayton Galchenyuk Kessel line, which I think it's funny that Galchenyuk and Kessel are on the same line. That's just very rarely do you see 2 players who are traded for each other on the same line. Uh,
Yeah.
but like they put them out after the Blues' second goal, and they just kind of like pick things back up. Like it's great to see. I think the Coyotes like can go into Thursday's game being like, all right, this is how we win. This is how we know we can win. And if they can just replicate that, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I think they will too. And especially because the Columbus Blue Jackets have not had an easy last few games. I mean, they just the other day they did beat the Red Wings 5-3. They lost the Rangers 5-3. They lost to the Capitals. They beat the Avalanche. So like they've won, and they also they beat the Avalanche twice in a row actually. But they've won some good games, but they've also lost others that they should have won. So it's hard to really gauge what to expect from this Columbus Blue Jackets team.
Yeah, it is, and it's also kind of hard to know how much stock to take into the 4th loss that the St. Louis Blues have in a row. Like how much of that is the Coyotes? How much of that was just them on like a losing streak dealing with issues? Like I don't know, and I don't know like what the Blue Jackets are going to be like on Thursday. All I know is the Coyotes played a really solid game, and they have the recipe for I don't want to say success, but adequate play moving forward.
For mediocrity.
Yes, they are working their way up to mediocrity, which is perfectly understandable given the situation they were in to start.
And you know what? Mediocrity is to me for this season is
Yeah.
good.
Yes, it is good. Mediocrity is like the gold standard of what we should expect. And also, just since we are talking about players, the mediocrity of an NHL player is still one of the best at what they're doing of
Yeah.
anything. I wish I was mediocre at podcasting professionally the same way an NHL player is mediocre at hockey.
Hey, we get paid pretty well. Come on, don't put yourself down.
We do. We're not multi-billionaires, though.
No,
Like,
I mean you're not gonna get that. You're not gonna get that much out of a podcast. But still, I mean,
yeah, yeah.
you can still
No,
hang your hat on that
oh
a
yeah,
little bit.
no, it's fine. I'm just saying, like, they are at the very top levels of what they're doing, and if you're mediocre at the top, you are like still the top.
True, you
Uh,
got okay. Yeah, fair
yeah.
point.
I always want to bring that up because we are talking about real people, and I feel like we're getting a lot more reminders of that this season, um, and especially for a tank team like the Coyotes. Like, I don't want to be diminishing the efforts of the athletes who, again, I thought looked really good today.
Again, yeah, I do too, and I really hope that they can carry this momentum to at least get a couple more wins, to look a little bit better. Because the loss against Chicago last week really disappointed me. Kind of made me feel down. So,
Yeah,
getting a couple wins, this win already sort of make me feel a little bit better.
yeah,
But
and if you're worried about the standings, the Coyotes are still very far in the basement, so they can afford to win a couple games. Don't get
exactly,
too upset.
and again, it's an 82 game season, so like, there's a lot of things that can happen. And let's also be real. Another thing too is, even if like they don't have to be the bottom team in to win the race in the lottery.
Yeah.
That's the reason why it's lottery. I mean, obviously, if you're the bottom team, you have the highest chance. But no matter what, you still have like, as long as the Coyotes stayed around where they should be, they still got a high chance of that number one.
Yeah. I don't think the team should be actively pursuing being the bottom team in the
No, they
league.
shouldn't. That's the thing. They should compete their heart out every game. They
Yeah.
should do what they can. It's the organization as a whole, the team that put together a team that doesn't have enough talent to pretty much say, all right, they're gonna be in the bottom.
Yeah.
But what I want to see from this team is that they do compete their heart out.
Yeah. I want to see the team competing and I want to see growth amongst the younger players like we saw tonight.
Exactly. Again, phenomenal performance from Barrett Hayton. Phenomenal performance from Kyle Capobianco. We're and we're gonna see still more from the young guys.
Yep.
Anyways, that is just about it. We're out of time for this episode of Locked On Coyotes. Hope you guys like what you heard. If you did, don't forget to leave a review, like, comment, subscribe. Especially for those who are watching via our live channel on either Facebook or YouTube. So once again, you can go to YouTube, our YouTube page, or our Facebook page, facebook.com/LockedOnCoyotes. Don't forget also to like us or follow us on Twitter and interact with us. We are at LO_Coyotes. I'm personally at Robyn_Leaño. That is Robyn with a Y _Leano. Carl Pavlock is at Carl Pavlock FFH. Ask us any question you might have. We might answer them right back or on a future episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. Once again, that is it for us today. Hope you guys are staying safe out there. Hope you guys are staying healthy. And don't forget to howl on.